Hello. All right. Today will be a very short video. Okay. As I had warned you, I'm just going to give a little bit on test three. I feel like I, I don't know. It's just something in me. I'm sure as heck not wanting you to do poorly. That's not it at all. But I'm wanting you to kind of graduate to an extent, to a higher level by the time of test three, so that you're kind of flying on your own. So let's see here. And keep in mind also that I feel pretty good that when I skip one, that it's pretty darn discernible in your argumentative assignments. And not only can I not, uh, keep you from using notes, I wouldn't if I could. My in class, almost invariably, I tell them to go ahead and use notes on the test. So, including the argumentative assignments. All right. And so please keep that in mind when I fail to cover some of this stuff. I believe you could find it. You could glean it from, if you don't recall it immediately, from your assignments. All right. Sorry, this way is not really more efficient, but I don't want to change now. Lopez, sorry. Right. Right. Remember also, you have the chance to do an extra credit write up. All right. What I do is I find out the grade rationale at the end and points. And usually it's like every, 60 points or so is a letter grade. And so I do a little bit over half of the scale of a complete grade so that you can, if you even remotely are in the mid range of your grade, if you do the extra credit assignment and do a decent job on it, then it's going to literally bump you up a letter grade. All right. So that's another thing that's kind of subjective, but I just try to make a decision um, based upon a lot of indicators of how much I want to someone's grade to be rewarded for doing the extra credit, right? Versus what they've been doing all along. And I like to do a balance of that. Certainly reward you for doing it, but also not make it so heavily weighted that you could have neglected your work during the class during the semester the entire time. You know what I usually do, because at my other school it's just a letter grade, it's just one letter grade or another, and it's that simple. And it never ceases to like be a bit of a surprise to me when I see uh, the um, the options for pluses and minuses at our school. So what I tend to do is if someone is fairly close to an ascending grade, I like to reward them and giving them the plus at the end of that grade. But I don't like, even if they barely made a B or a C by the skin of their teeth, I just feel badly giving them a minus. So to be honest, I usually reward and I don't I wouldn't say punish, but you know what I mean. I almost never give minuses, even if you barely made that letter grade. But I am willing to give pluses if you're very close to the ascending grade. All right, does that sound fair? Sorry, I'm taking so long. I thought this was going to be a lot more efficient for me than it ended up being. No problem. All right. Thank you for your patience. All right. I'm almost done, guys. Thank you. One more. Okay, great. Have all you down finally. Sorry that took me so long. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share the screen. So number one, and then I'm going to skip quite a few. All right. Number one, which of the following is false, does not fit with the alleged democratization of American institutions and culture, etc. In this case, it's just political democratization during the age of Andrew Jackson. So nearly all states broadened their franchise. That is true. Remember, as I mentioned, they dropped property requirements for citizenship. So now virtually all poor white men were enfranchised in most of the states. The electoral system was abolished? No, that's the one that you would choose. We still have the electoral system today. So obviously it was not abolished. But we did implement the direct election of presidential electoral points and also increase political participation in politics. Note I also said with number three is that populism, I said that it appeals to the lowest common denominator. It is kind of a quid pro quo thing. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. And that the politician, in return for votes, he appeals to sometimes the base desires and thoughts and sentiments of his voters. So if they're racist, he runs with it. If they're xenophobic against immigrants coming in, he uses that for his own popular appeal, and he pushes that button, etc. So three was intended to be true. All right. Looking at this just before sharing this with you, I really do feel like all this other stuff is pretty clear in the handouts. All right, that I'm skipping down over. I know I feel mean doing this, but like I said, I firmly philosophically believe in this and kind of letting you fly on the third one. But please remember, not only do I believe I've covered it, I believe that it's discernible in the handouts. All right. So remember with the Frederick Jackson Turner's thesis, anything that supports the idea, the romantic thesis, that the West was indiscriminate. It was indiscriminate with its dangers, and it was indiscriminate with its opportunities. So that there arose in the West, uniquely to the country, a genuine meritocracy, that anybody could rise or fall based upon merit, hard work, intelligence, etc. So at any rate, any artificial, any institutional, any behavioral and cultural attempts at marginalizing Chinese Americans, Hispanic Americans, etc., that goes against Turner's thesis. Anything to do with big business prevailing over small business and the little guy, that goes against Turner's thesis, right? Because they're not advocating that there was true equality of opportunity in the West. So keep that in mind when you're answering 14 and 15. Right. Number 18, I may not have mentioned all the movements. Prison and asylum reform, I believe I mentioned those. Public education as well. I mentioned the utopian movements, like with the Transcendentalists, right? The temperance movement against alcohol, the Sabbath movement to have Sunday off, and of course the abolitionist movement. I wasn't sure if I had mentioned the Sabbath movement. And so, and I'm not sure if it's in that section or not. The first section of, or the second section that gives court history to the causes of the Civil War. So in this case, it's all the above with 18. All right. Number 19, look at all of toward the end of the section on women on the Andrew Jackson assignment. All right. And I make it pretty clear about 3 of them. And a 4th one you won't find in there. So that's the one you choose that doesn't fit. Now, I think 20 is okay online. It's the strangest thing I've ever seen. I literally have written out this question and redoing it and adding this question. Oh my goodness, like 4 times. And it will not save on my thumb drive. So I'll tell you what, I may take a look at number 20 from our, when I'm done with this, from our online test to make sure. Yeah. So let's see here. '23 and '24 are pretty clear. 22 should be pretty easy, but just in case, I'll give you that one. Radical Republicans were depicted as the conciliatory arm of the Republican Party, prizing peace and unity above their opposition to slave-based labor. No way. Remember, they were labeled as rabble rousers, as troublemakers, and they were proud of that moniker. So that one's clearly false. 22. The evolution of Lincoln should answer 24 and 25 pretty easily. I never remember how well I cover the polarizing events of the 1850s. So let's do that one. 26. Allegedly polarizing events of the 1850s that arguably set the stage for Civil War. So remember, polarizing, kind of almost forcing Americans into one camp or the oppositional camp, one or another. Included chaotic and confrontational consequences to political solutions, like riots and laws against the fugitive slave law, and violence emanating from a plan to determine the legitimacy of slavery by vote in Kansas. Absolutely. That one's absolutely true. B, included an increasing image each region portrayed of becoming increasingly stubborn, uncompromising, and radical regarding the issue of slavery. Absolutely. And I think that's pretty clear in the handout, but it's not overtly stated. C, included a bold attempt by the Supreme Court to secure the enslavement and disenfranchisement of Black men. Absolutely, the Dred Scott decision. So with 26, it's all the above. Okay, 20. Yes.
I have a question. Is that okay if I can ask it right now?
Of course, of course.
So it's regarding number 20. So would that be like a true or false question, or do you have to choose an option for that?
I don't know. That's why when I finish through this version, hopefully it should allow me to share the page with you on the digital version on Canvas. I'm sure hoping so, because I would like to I'd like to address it together after this.
Okay.
All right, no problem. Okay, so 28, I believe you should find all of that in the revisionist interpretation, which is number 3, in the alleged causes of the Civil War. Remember, the first section was the war diplomatically avoidable? 2 was court history, that it was this exceptional generation of idealistic rebels that made the nation confront the issue of slavery, and the evolution of Lincoln. So note, hence, he was not an abolitionist from the start. That gives you another answer to a question. The court history of him is that he slowly evolved. He slowly came around, right? So at any rate, but the next section is revisionist, right? And I tear into that previous one. And you should find all of that in 28 to be able to answer that question. Just in case, if I have a doubt at all, I'll cover it. if I don't feel really confident that the argumentative assignment should answer it for you. Let's do 29. Revisionist data on Abraham Lincoln includes all but except Lincoln's Declaration of Emancipation only for slaves of rebels. That is true, right? We mentioned that. An infamous quote against the social and political equality of Black and white Americans. I don't remember. I think that's in there, but that is true. It's a very ugly quote. His back was put against the wall. He was called an inward lover, and he was told to an angry racist crowd that he wanted their white daughters to marry Black men and all this. So there was an element to which he was kind of trying to save his own hide, in which he says something very ugly. It says, wait a minute, I just want those poor people to be emancipated. I never said anything about social and political equality. I too am not for that. C, he dragged his feet in confronting slavery in states where it had already been sanctioned. Absolutely. D, his refusal to place any radical Republicans in his cabinet. That's the one that doesn't fit. He put William Seward, and William Seward ran for president against him as a radical abolitionist, a radical Republican. So the last one's the one that doesn't fit. All right. 30, the textbook contends that the Free Soil Party's formation signaled the inability of the existing parties to contain the political passions created by the slavery issue. Absolutely. Absolutely. Remember, they took a middle of the road stand, and they chose to emphasize economic opportunities for white men rather than Black men, so that those planters should be allowing white sharecroppers to do the work instead, and that they should have free soil in the West and build factories and have other jobs in which white men will get them and be remunerated with wages and have opportunities to rise up the socioeconomic pyramid. Number 31, Antietam, according to the text, hosted the war's bloodiest day of battle. That is true. And it's after the South gave up at Antietam. It was kind of a draw, but the South left first, the battlefield. So the Northern public took it as a victory, because the South was pretty much one of its 4 times invading Washington, D.C., the nation's capital. And they stopped and went backward at Antietam. And that it wasn't long after Antietam that Lincoln felt it was the right time to issue the Emancipation Proclamation. So it didn't look like he was desperate. Number 32, the textbook contends that Union leader George B. McClellan's tenacity and willingness to sacrifice soldiers helped defeat the Confederacy of the South. No, you could easily replace that name with Ulysses S. Grant, not McClellan. McClellan was very, very overly cautious as a general. So that's false. And remember 33, I did use that term, break the will of the South. And all the rest of that you could find in my lecture to you guys on fighting the Civil War. So you know 33 is true. Right. 34, I gave that. And I'd like to think that I gave that exact encapsulation of the failure of Reconstruction that you see on 34. So yes, I intend 34 to be true. 35, I'll meet you halfway, is remember Dunning's thesis by a white Southern historian is that the North did what it did for African Americans, not for the right reasons, not out of altruism and humanitarian concern, but they did it to punish the white Southerners. So it was rather vindictive and calculated. So anything, right, that's pretty much revisionist is going to defend Dunning's thesis. So that as far as looking at African American men as useful, being racist themselves in the North, all of that would fit. Would support Dunning's thesis. This one, I'll meet you halfway in that you should know this one. But look what I say here. An overwhelming majority of freedmen initially elected into office had been plantation slaves. Did I say right off the bat? Or did I say that they naturally looked up to their preachers, to those who had been freed most of their lives and lived in enclaves in the cities and were already literate and successful businessmen? And then coming around by the second and third elections, voting in plantation slaves. It became a little bit more radical in time, but not immediately. $37 should be easy. All right. And note with 38, you should know from the section and from my my blabbing that education for freedmen during Congressional Radical Reconstruction occurred. Remember, I used the numbers that it was less than 10% literacy rate amongst Black Americans in the South to over 40%. And I kind of did to death the praise of these triumvirate states, right, in the radical phase, issuing safety net legislation. Now, I did mention some for land redistribution, but I should have made it clear that it did not stick. So that was not really a part of radical congressional reconstruction, land redistribution. And then 39 is an easy process of elimination. When you look at the very last section in your entire semester, section 2 of Reconstruction. And remember, my simple thesis was that they should have known that political solutions for cultural and social problems and issues don't work. They might make some inroads, but they won't be sufficient. So then I attacked 3 institutions in the South that could have arguably brought about a cultural change. And they dropped the ball, all 3 of them. And I make it pretty clear what those 3 are in that last section, section 2 of Reconstruction. You should easily find one after a second one, then a third one. And you'll easily be able to discern which one was not mentioned, which one does not fit, and hence the one you choose on the test. And what the heck is the last one? You should know that from my lecture as well as from the handout that it's all the above on 40. I believe I got into all of those. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to see if I could share. See if I can move this down. All right. Can you guys see this as I'm moving along in Canvas? Okay, good. Thank you for the thumbs up. I'm going to hit edit, even though I don't intend to edit it. And I know that's one way by which I could gain access to the questions. So let's go to number 20 and see exactly what I wrote. Let's see. If I hit it, if it will show the options. It's weird. Yes, it is true false. The instructor's handout subjectively suggested that the Civil War could not have been avoided on account of the success of Deep South cotton, polarizing events in the 1850s, and obstinate or stubborn political tactics no longer led by a perceived need to compromise. That's exactly what I tried to convey on number 1. And the alleged causes of the Civil War. And the first section, could the Civil War have been averted? I subjectively, argumentatively argue no. Cotton was doing too well. The fire eaters or the parvenus of the Deep South were getting a taste of the good life, and they were not about to let go of it. There was a perceived assumption that if slavery could not spread its wings into the new Western territories and states, that it would eventually die off. And Southerners, and then later the Republicans, the radical Republicans, began, instituting the kind of stubborn practice of telling their compatriots in their party, we will not vote with you on other issues that are dear to you if you don't take a stronger stand for us, either for or against the extension of slavery. So hence the obstinacy claim. So yeah, definitely I intend 20 to be true.
Professor, you said
Yeah.
20 is true, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I try to qualify my questions, right? Saying that I conveyed on the handout the given thesis, because history is very argumentative. It's not 2 + 2 is 4. That's for sure. Right. But I believe you guys can do well from this. I do.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
I do have a question. Are they in order of each assignment that we do, or is it like all scrambled up?
No, they should be in order of the assignments that we do.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also, I have one more question. I didn't know if you answered one of the 3 of 13 through 15, but if you did, what did you get for that one?
Let me take a look. Now I'll cut a deal with you. If I did not do 13 through 15, I'm willing to do one of them. Okay. Let's see here. Let's see if we did. Okay, yeah, what I kind of did is I met you halfway. Is I just wanted to remind you that which defends Turner's thesis is like entrepreneurial opportunities to like mine the miners. Mineral wealth, they called it placer level gold and silver that could be extracted without skill, without money and capital. Why both of those? Because they both suggest equality of opportunity, right? A temporary lack of institutions and reputation for lawlessness in California gold country, absolutely. That's part of his depiction of the Wild West, right? Is he employed kind of Darwinian theory. And he said, this still supports his thesis, he thought, because the dangers were, quote, indiscriminate. So everybody equally had to overcome them. So hence, when you look at D, and it says foreign miners taxes against Hispanics and Asians, that doesn't fit. That's the one that doesn't fit, because that does not promote his message of equality of opportunity in the West for everybody, right?
Okay, thank you, sir.
No problem.
Just to confirm, 14 is D, right?
Let's see here. Yes, 14 is D. It does not. Now remember, rather than thinking D in preparation for the test, think of the foreign minors taxes do not support Frederick Jackson Turner's thesis, because sometimes the computer will scramble my options A through D. So I can't guarantee that they'll be in that order.
Okay.
All right, so that goes for all of you. Note what the actual answer is, just in case. In addition to, it's very likely because I don't choose to do that, to scramble them. So but it's strange. Sometimes it still does. All right. All right. Well, I will be racing time to finish grading your assignments. I promise to do my best. My dean encourages me to do it within 72 hours of the last official day of class. And I believe our last official day of class is tomorrow, 7/22. So yeah, 3 days from there, by the end of the day, I should have your grades. Okay. And so you're very welcome, Bernice. Thank you. I appreciate your appreciation. Thank you. Shania, thank you. I take that as a compliment. All right. So you guys honestly take care. No problem, Megan. Thank you for coming so faithfully. Sorry for a couple mishaps with the Zooms, and also for Saharsh, no problem. Also taking so long to grade your stuff. There's no excuse for it. I'm sorry. All right. Thank you. All right. But honest to goodness, I have high expectations for each of you. I'm genuinely impressed with your evaluations and analyses of my stuff. I literally, on 2 occasions already, just in 4 assignments, have written down notes to myself and improving a given section, because I thought the problem with the section and what it lacked was so correct, so accurate, and so intelligent that I'm going to work on putting just that, what the student suggested, into the section. So you guys are very smart. And I wish you well in life, in your careers. Keep going through school. You won't regret it. And you guys take care. Bless you guys and your families. Okay? Thank you, Jenny. That's sweet. You guys take care.